Hello, got my new pad and new notes on Land of the Lost. Now, this is the 1991 version of Land of the Lost. There's one from the 70s, which I have never seen, and there's at least one movie with Will Ferrell, which I have seen, but I don't remember much about it. Maybe I'll watch it again at the end of all this. Um, the one from the 90s, it started out on ABC, I guess. Um, I don't know. It was Saturday morning, ABC show. Um, for kids, one Saturday morning, all that, and then it was picked up by Nickelodeon for from 1995 to 1997, and that must be where I saw it because in 1991 I wasn't much into. I was probably into dinosaurs, but it was probably Land Before Time more than Land of the Lost, and also plastic dinosaurs. Uh, but I definitely it was up there with my favorites with Wishbone and Space Cases and Animorphs. The show Animorphs is more a favorite because of the books Animorphs, but those are I guess pretty much not the only big not the well those are the big four live actions, and I guess they're the cartoons too. But those are the big four live actions for me when I was a kid, and so I don't know what show I would do after this as far as continuing to do the YouTube thing, but we'll see. Two episodes today. The first two, Tasha and Something's Watching. And these they introduce the core family, the Porters, Tom Porter, the father, Kevin and Annie, the kids. And then they introduce the main three supporting characters, who are Tasha, the title character of the first episode, who is let me make sure I get it right. Tasha is a Parasaurolophus, and Tasha was the person in the costume was a man named Ed Gale, and then the voice was another guy, Danny Mann, and so one of those. And I think with Tasha, this was one thing that I noticed that I hadn't noticed before, but Tasha's face tended to be more expressive in close-ups, and this is the more sophisticated eye talking now. Um, it looked like it was more along the lines of the Ninja Turtles, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from the 1990s. I think they were both of those movies, or all three of the movies with the rubber suits were 1990s, and those mouths aren't moving on the big turtle faces because the guys in the suits are moving them. At least I don't think they're more complicated than that. Similar with E.T. E.T. was there were shots of E.T. that were a person in an E.T. costume, but then there were shots of E.T. that was I guess the ones where his face was more expressive, where he was built into the floor. You can see that in some the behind the scenes stuff on DVDs and Blu-rays and whatnot, and probably on YouTube somewhere. So I think I haven't been able to confirm this, but I think that those two guys they were the main Tasha performers, and then there was somebody, and there was a different Tasha head for close-ups, so that the tongue could do more, and the eyebrows could do more, the eyes themselves could do more. So that was an interesting thing that I noticed that I wanted to bring up. Um, the and the story of the episode very briefly. These are not complicated stories. Annie and Kevin are sent to get water. They find a trampled nest, but there's one egg. Annie wants to bring the egg home. Kevin teases her about making a huge omelet. It is a huge egg, and the egg hatches overnight. It is a baby dinosaur, and they're also somewhat newly arrived. They've built a treehouse and kind of wooden cart out of bamboo by this point, so they've been there probably for a while, but they still got gas in the truck apparently, and they're still kind of getting used to being afraid of the dinosaurs. And the first scene of the whole show doesn't have any humans; it's just the T-Rex attacking Tasha's mom and presumably trampling the nest. No humans, and the puppetry in this, it really did convince me, not that the dinosaurs were real, but as far as I was concerned when I first saw this, the dinosaurs, the T-Rex especially, was as convincing as the one in Jurassic Park. Uh, and it wouldn't have even occurred to me that, and I'm pretty sure, I haven't confirmed this either, I'm pretty sure Scarface, which is the name of the T-Rex, is a hand puppet in close-ups on the face. And then there's, you know, I think it's stop motion from further away, as with most of the dinosaurs. But and then the feet it looked like the same, it looked like Hork-Bajir feet from the early episodes of Animorphs, just like big three-toed uh, feet going along. But it convinced me in 1995, I'm going to say, when I first saw it, convinced me that it was at least, if not a real dinosaur, then a physical thing that took up the space of a dinosaur and moved on its own. Uh, so, but I wasn't thinking back then in terms of special effects. So yeah, I wanted to mention that specifically, and then other dinosaurs, probably similarly hand puppets here and there, but then also very very well sculpted hand puppets, very well sculpted feet, the occasional giant tail that just moves across the screen. There's a Stegosaurus in, I think, Something's Watching, that looks like a pretty decently done hand puppet. They're nice and realistic-ish looking even to me now. That might be part nostalgia, but also just respect for the craftsmanship. So let's see what else I actually wrote down. After the what I think of as one of my favorite theme songs, happens between the dinosaur fight and when we first meet the Porters. They listen to the dinosaur fight when we first meet them, and it wakes up Annie, who's the younger sister, and she's very concerned, and her father comforts her and says, "We're up high," and all that. Probably not specifically that. And then Kevin is listening to music on his headphones. Tom Porter, the father, expresses concern that they'll run out of gas for the truck, which I think is addressed in a future episode. But they and I don't know if they ever worry about batteries for their music, but they play a lot of music, and I'm wondering, are they picking up radio stations because this is an alternate dimension, but the radio waves go across dimensions, or did they just bring a lot of cassettes and CDs on the trip that they were on? They started on a vacation, and then they were there was an earthquake, and they went underground. They went through a portal, and now they're in the land of the lost with 3 moons. So I don't know if there were actually 3 moons for the Earth in the time of the dinosaurs, but there it is. There weren't, I don't think. I have to look that up. But probably not. I'm going to commit to probably not. So yeah. And Tom Porter, I wrote down, is the classic sitcom dad, and the kids are the classic teasing each other. I mentioned Kevin saying he wants to make an omelet out of the egg. And then when the egg hatches, when Tasha hatches, she comes out, and Kevin he's stolen a little candy bar, and he's listening to music. He's eating the candy bar, and both he and Tasha eat the candy bar in kind of a weird way, where they have it near their mouth, and they bite into it, and then they hold there for a second, then pull it away. And I don't know exactly what kind of candy bar it is, but there's a certain kind of, I think it's kind of not a Rice Krispie treat, but a similar thing, but it's a candy bar, very soft, but not cream filled or anything filled candy bar, and the way they ate the candy bar, that was how I ate candy bars for a long time. I just held it there, and almost even, because Tasha, of course, a big puppet, doesn't have the dexterity or the knowledge to not get the plastic in her mouth, so I would get the plastic in my mouth a little bit too. It's just an interesting things you remember when you watch things that from when you were, how old was I, 8, 7? And the way that they influenced you. It influenced how I ate candy bars. So, long story short, Scarface comes by and almost eats Tom. And they're trying to figure out a way to keep Scarface away, and Tasha accidentally gets electrocuted when Kevin is working on the truck. I don't know why he's working on the truck. Maybe they're working on it because it's better than driving it for keeping it active. But they find a way to trick the T-Rex into getting electrocuted, and therefore the T-Rex will stay away from the treehouse. So that's the first episode, and the introduction of Tasha and the three porters, and it's cute, very cute. Not as cute as Wishbone, but cuter than Space Cases and Animorphs. So something's watching. Now this is where we meet Stink and Krista. This show, like Space Cases, also has a character named Krista. I refer to the spaceship in Space Cases as a character because they said it was alive, and it did seem to interact every so often. In this case, Krista is a human who might have been from their world too, because the last thing she does in the episode is she gives the peace sign. She says peace and love, and in English, and occasionally she understands more English than not, and Stink seems to understand some English. Stink is a kind of, not a Neanderthal because he's very small, but early humanoid creature. What is he called? He's got a name. Pakuni? Pakuni. Hairy humanoid primates. Yes, so there's that. But they understand some English, not a lot of English, but if the porters are arriving in the early 90s, and maybe everyone arrives at the same time of the dinosaurs, at the same land of the lost, but no, Krista would have been there longer, but she seems to have arrived from the 60s, and that I think that's what is suggested, and I think we learn more later about her as well. And there are. So the show opens. He's got aspirations to filmmaking or something along those lines. He's got a camcorder. He wants to take it out and film things, and he gets chased by wild dogs, which the Wikipedia entry says are called. Where are they? I'll just do this because it is suggested that they are, apparently I thought direwolves was something made up for Game of Thrones, but direwolves were an actual prehistoric canine, an extinct canine. So it is suggested they are direwolves. I think Stink is the one who calls them Makani, and Kevin refers to them as prehistoric pit bulls. They reminded me of hyenas. Not bad-looking dogs, but not friendly-looking dogs by our dog beauty standards of society. Jack Russell Terriers, they were not. But yes, direwolves are a real thing, not just the giant dogs on Game of Thrones. These dogs were small. And they chase Kevin, and they chase him up a tree. He drops the camera, which then is pointed in the direction of where he's being watched by Stink and Krista does this howl that chases the dogs away, and later on it chases a Stegosaurus away. I think she also uses it to get a pterodactyl to stop bothering them. It's an all-purpose howl. And the video camera, it's similar to the radios, where how much music do they have, how much video does he have, because he's just everything. But I guess there aren't real answers to any of these. It's just they had to play some music. They had to give him something to do, and so endless ammo sort of situation. And so they go looking for the people. And he shows the video to Annie and Tom, and they're like, there are humans and semi-humans other than us. We should meet these people. And they go looking for them. And a poisonous lizard, not a dinosaur, not a snake, but just looks like an iguana, bites Tom. And I don't know if iguanas are poisonous or not, but it bites Daddy Porter, Tom Porter, and his wrist gets infected. And his wrist, it gets kind of gooey, and I didn't know back then about swelling, infections, infectious swelling, that sort of thing. None of them does the thing where if you get a snake bite, you suck the poison out and then spit. Nobody does that with Tom. Maybe that wasn't a thing back then, or maybe they didn't think that was necessarily, or maybe it was just the you have to have a quest to get the solution. If you do that, it's not much of a quest to get the solution. It's not in as much danger. But after this happens, he's in distress. Stink and Krista come out to potentially help, and Krista gets somewhat of a heroic entrance where the camera's looking up at her, and she's got her staff, and she looks kind of like a superhero. I want to say Xena Warrior Princess, but I don't know enough about Xena. And she uses the staff a lot. She uses the staff to intimidate the dinosaurs. So she kind of comes off as a slightly supernatural or superhuman person. I mentioned the similarity with Space Cases, that they both have Kristas, and when Kevin is introducing himself to Krista, he says, "I'm Kevin." Kevin. He says it twice, like Harlan Band says, "I'm Harlan Band," and just like Thelma says, "Hello, Harlan Band," Krista thinks that he is Kevin. So there's that joke, which came before Space Cases, but still. I wonder if that's more of a older trope than I give it credit for, because I'm biased to the 90s. Let's see. So I mentioned how Krista and Stink seem to have passing knowledge of English, and Krista probably came from the 70s. I think we find out that Stink and the Pakuni, I'll learn this word, Pakuni, have their own language as well. I mentioned the direwolves. Stink, when Tom, they don't have the medicine yet, but they want some kind of keep him going. Stink squeezes water out of, I think it's moss or something, and when they ultimately get the medicine, it's from a plant, and Krista squeezes the plant, and kind of goo comes out of the plant into Tom's mouth. I mentioned she fights off the dinosaurs. Stink fights off the Makani, the direwolves. So it's one of those things where Stink and Krista are very skeptical, semi-wild people, but they're also protected. There might have been a natural selection sort of thing where these people are similar to us. We don't know them or trust them, but we are going to protect them because we should keep people like us alive. And I mentioned how it ends with peace and love. So we've met our characters, we've met our heroes, we've met a couple of, we haven't met the, well, there are various antagonists. It's kind of a villain of the week, and many of the villains are just unwitting dinosaurs. But I look forward to going through this. I don't know that I've seen every single episode. I probably have, but the last time I did a watch through, I didn't watch the last 2 or 3. So very much looking forward to that. And I don't have I suppose I can end each one of these videos with peace and love.